Welcome to Books That Built Me, the podcast where mindset meets style and every page leads to transformation. I am your host, Antasia Armour, mindset and style coach, guiding you through the books that shape my confidence, refine my image, and rebuild how I show up in the world. And in each episode, as we uncover the wisdom between the lines and how it lives in our closets, our thoughts, and our decisions. This is coaching talk, not just book talk, for women becoming more of who they were, always meant to be. So, let's get into it. Okay, so welcome to episode one. We're going to entitle this around mindset for the book Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. So the title we're going to go around is going to be Power is Allowed, It's Aligned. And just thinking about how Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind helped me find confidence. What this book awakened and myself was a spirit of entrepreneurship, even just thinking about peace as a strategy and how I had to really go through certain experiences to even realize what peace was is a really big part of what took place, because peace is also about finding the strength to actually keep your peace in a state that really resonates with who you're becoming. And that's really what is in alignment when it comes to thinking about alignment as personal branding. When I am walking around as a personal billboard for my brand and what I think about, it's really easy to get caught up in what's taking place within myself and then neglect what necessarily is taking place around me. And that's not really something that I really want to do. So, as for myself, when I really felt the most in line with a particular transformation with Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind is when I felt like nobody else had ever really read this book before. When I first read it, I was probably around 16 years old. And as I got older, I realized that many other people who are similar have also read this book. So that light bulb of an aha moment was like, aha, you read this too. And that's really rare because most of the time people are really unfamiliar. And then how this showed up in my wardrobe and my body language as well is rather quite simple. And those moments where I prefer to hang around those people who have had similar interests and or have read similar books as the Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. That is a moment in real life where I can feel the connection from their mindset, and the transformations are really stark, whether it's a physical. I was really overweight. I was probably 100 pounds heavier. I gotten up to 210 pounds, almost like 205 pounds maybe. And that particular have an avert that that particular observance is where people gawk. And it's sad because I feel as though when people are gawking, but you can't even go a straight road in a place that you call home. So I always feel like that's not necessarily the most appropriate form to get your point across. And that's because it isn't. So the transformations are very what people are considering as noticeable. So people are either going to give you compliments. I see that on our license anymore. They don't even put the weight no longer. They won't even really go down that route. And personally speaking, peace as a strategy, when I'm really wanting to hone in on how Sarah is able to understand that as we get older, we age and we have a certain palette. It's not about just being able to figure out what's the next step. Because, for one, I'm going to rave Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind is one of the best books that I've ever read. I mean, I can read it back and forth multiple times. I have read all of the books that Napoleon Hill has ever written. Napoleon Hill has wrote books on the 17 principles of success: humility, humor, having a winning personality, a pleasing personality, um, just having those ideas in your faculties, having the seat of the ego, having those moments where you can use your memory as a power, uh, taking care of yourself, sex transmutation. I'm a highly sex individual. My ask my parental parents, they probably are just only too quick to tell you. And that's something that I've always reveled in. Even dealing with my cousins, we were always so sexualized in this manner, like, oh, you so handsome, or you so pretty. And I'm grateful that none of us have ever crossed the line into incest. That's a really great thing, because I really love our brand spaces owners, hubby, and I call him hubby, and our baby's father. So I'm grateful that that's something that is a weight we don't have to carry. And it just goes to show that sometimes kids are really curious, and that's just really a part of growing up. And I don't feel like there's a point in shying away from that. I feel like it's easier to embrace it and have an understanding there above everything else. And that's just how it goes. When you're even dealing with your peaceful thoughts, even when it comes to dealing with your sex transmutation, when you're dealing with the climax of what's taking place between you and your significant other and your partner. And even as my cousins, Shantia has gotten to a point now where I've been thinking about the menstrual cycle, and we are all talking about the luteal phase, and you kind of sort of are in sync to do your cycle based off what you're wearing and how you're feeling, and you kind of sort of all resonates into one. And now all of a sudden, I'm thinking how our menstrual cycles are really coming across as a sense of a power and a scent as well. And when you think about what the scents are, it's blood, it's really rich. It's a really kind of shedding of what takes place as we get ready to renew and kind of sort of enter into what's coming next, and what's getting ready to manifest next, and what's getting ready to come to us next, and what's getting ready to come next. And how do you, and myself, I mean, I had one menstrual cycle and it was 2 days. That was the shortest menstrual cycle I had ever experienced in my whole entire lifespan. I had my menstrual cycle since I remember, well, since I had a memory. I had to go and tell my mom for some help. I was probably, want to say, like fifth grade. So what is that, like 10 years old? And like I said, I'm 35 years old as we speak now. So I am constantly on my menstrual cycle, and probably others around us are too, because you can take your cues from nature, and women are like nature, that type of God, type of presence. So you always really want to be mindful of that particular energy, and that sex transmutation is something that is really a beautiful nature, but we can oftentimes mislead others into thinking that it is or it isn't, and we can kind of misuse these powers and therefore have it as a spirit, and it's rooted in abuse. And so you just really want to be mindful. I mean, I get it. You can make some mistakes, but I'm not even going to lie to you. Some of them I just prefer not to do. But of course, we know the perfect one is Jesus. But I mean, but when you really peel back those layers and you are to honor your parents are so perfect in your eyes. So it's really difficult to sever the two. They're just like they're God in your eyes. So it's not easy to sever what takes place between them. So that's just alignment as personal branding. I'm sorry, but it just is. Okay. And what I want y'all to do is really think about this. Write down a list of things that really resonates with your parents as well as yourself. It can be that you all both love to read your Bible, that you all are all gray haired. It can just anything that you all can take away as really feeling like a sense of belonging. That's really ultimately all you have to do. And I challenge you all to do this tonight. When you read this episode, if you read it in the morning, do it by the time the day wraps up. If you do it in the afternoon, you have less time. And if you do it in the evening, then I suggest you do it within the next 5 to 10, 15 minutes once you wrap up the video in particular speaking. And I mean, and that's really how it's going to kind of sort of unfold. And if you want another style prompt, you can really dress for ease and authority. Whether for myself, for an example, today I woke up, I think I probably did some PJs, and then I just took a moment and I swapped out. Actually, I did a robe, and then I swapped those out, and I put on some comfy little biker shorts with a crop top, that was actually really cotton and comfy. And then eventually I took care of my daughter so much so to the point where I finally felt the need to shower because I got so dirty from trying to take care of her. And then by the time I actually did the showering and then I put on my comfy pants, and that was really how I kind of sort of executed that ease and that authoritative figure of having those moments that says, no, no one can be my daughter's mother but myself, but me. And you have to have that realization. If there's really no other reason to do anything, then I'm not going to do them. If there is no other reason to do something, why are those things necessarily going to get accomplished? They aren't. So by the time they are, then it was the reason behind it that was actually based and rooted in fact and reality. And even I'll go a step further, self actualization. And so that's really where you want to be at. That's really where you want to find yourself. And personally speaking, I really am not thinking that anything is wrong with that type of behavior. And that's just really where I am. That's just a moment of clarity, and I mean that's a really good thing to have. And it's sad to say that the people who I do not have that transformation relatability with, we're kind of some of the most standoffish, but we're acknowledgement of one another's presence, but it's still at a different level than you're around somebody else who has chosen to read these particular type of titles. And sometimes you really just want to have that connection and presence with someone who's actually taken the time out, much like you did, in order to enhance or improve whatever their thinking patterns were, and you all share that common connection. And that's another reason why I've really been into book clubs. I was just telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I was really upset I can't find my alumni book club. And it's sad because I had it all pulled out, and I guess I stopped going to it. I just stopped really participating or putting forth those efforts. And then when I go back to try to find it once more, guess what happens? Mom, I can't find it. Mom, I'm pouting. I'm upset. And so I'm grateful in a sense because every type of adversity carries with it the seed of equivalent or greater benefit, or anything that's derogatory is even can be thought of as this great ill, can be the illest thing in the world that's ever happened to us and what was me, or can it be something that appears to be so wrong that dies but it's really a blessing in the way that it's presented itself. And that means that the downfall, the bad side, and at the same time it's the guys and the blessing. And they're both in one. They're the same thing all at one time. And that means that the blessing is not being able to find what I'm looking for, because that way I was able to kind of sort of have the same feeling and want accomplished that I was looking for, but maybe even on a grander or greater scale, or something that was even more in alignment with who I currently was. So you always want to kind of sort of be able to kind of sort of recognize those energies there. And just overall, generally speaking, back to the Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, there was another one that I really love by Napoleon Hill too. And I want to say it was like dealing with some kind of enemies of jealousy, and how they're all riding on these horses and they're pointed at you. And we just, I guess, always assuming that it's somebody else. And when I originally read through that entire, and that's a really thick, big book, and they're always talking about how you want to have the habit of saving, because the habit of saving allows us to kind of sort of see that we're allowed to pay ourselves first. And whenever I kind of sort of have that understanding, I try to do $5 a month. And if I can't handle $5 a month, then I'll try to do up or down depending on what's taking place with myself. And I mean, I've suffered bone crushing blows. I feel like, I mean, I got a brand new car, and then all of a sudden somebody starts to hate at Nordstrom, and then I lose a job. So now I'm feeling insecure about how I'm going to move forward with paying off this vehicle note every month with the job that I no longer have. But that's the whole reason why I got it. And I have to reel in those emotions because they will take over. They will say that you allow for this to happen to myself, but you still rolling, you still collecting a paycheck that's probably fat every other day. And then I have the other side of myself, like the two angels that sit there, and that one is saying, yeah, well, now you at a different space in the spot that's so high and mighty. Oh, North, everybody loves North, they take everything, they go there. And all of they're saying, once everybody consider it so lesser, the same things are there in their area too as well. So it's almost like, well, okay, why was you being so high and mighty and you in another place that everybody is considered so whatever else then? So you thought that you were better than them, but you're in the same place as they are. So you know what I mean? So I'm always going back and forth with that battle, that good and evil, that spirit of forgiveness and hatred, or being so mad that I'm unwilling to forgive. And even within these last few nights, I really settled into this spirit of forgiveness. And I'm really not sure where it came from. Sometimes it's really hard to explain, and those are those moments where you really have to figure out your finances and why you save as much as you do. And you have to kind of sort of take those things and kind of sort of figure out how to have those moments where you really can figure out, okay, is alignment as personal branding going to allow myself to continuously scale without these people? And this is my opportunity to figure out what that answer is. So that's ultimately how you want to think about it. And at this point, I'm hopeful that things will continue to move forward, because I don't always want to rely on my mom to help us do the same things continuously. I also want to have a partner so that when something does happen, I can rely on them and vice versa. And I appreciate that. I'm really aware of the fact that gratefulness is really a profound motivator as to why people continuously do things for us. And I really believe that's a really sweet way to have as an experience in overall life as to what takes place and why. So, thank you for joining me for another chapter of Books That Built Me. If this episode reshaped your mindset or refreshed your style, leave a comment or review. And don't forget to wear your truth boldly. I'll see you in the next one.